Okay, so it's 5:19. This is video number 89, and as promised, we're going through all the questions on the test. I said many times I think that's important. To move the video along a little quicker, I've sort of set up the data for you, and we're starting with number 40. So, and the problem, if you read it, you should, if you're serious and you got it wrong and you want to see what you did wrong, you have the thing in front of you now, the test itself. So it says that H is 13 here, D is 14. That implies that R is 7, and then you have to read the question carefully. They want you to find the surface area. They didn't say the lateral surface area, they said the surface area. So that's the area of the top and the bottoms. Imagine it's a closed can, plus the lateral area. So you plug in your values. Here you go. Here, we'll fix this up a little bit. That's making sure that making sure that we got everything here. So there you add everything up, pi's like terms. And when you do all this math, you come up with 280 pi. And I also accepted, if you multiplied it by pi, just looking for correct answers. And when kids did that, and some kids did, they got something like this. And if you were in the ballpark, I don't know what you were doing or whatever, but if it looked reasonable, I gave you credit, okay? So there's the correct answer for number 40. Really, no big deal, okay? All right, and now we go on to 41. Again, an open-ended question, and very disappointing how many kids got this one wrong. Very disappointing. So anyway, they ask you to find the volume in cubic yards. Goodness gracious, why do you want to find the volume in feet? That's not a Regents question. That's not an 8th grade math question. So in order to do that, you have to remember that there are 3 feet to 1 yard. It's entirely reasonable to expect a kid to know that. So that means if there are 24 feet, there are 8 yards, and on and on and on. There's no reason for me to go on. After all, we're working on Common Core math going into high school. So that means that when I do this and this and this, make things easier, and then I go over here and move it over so you guys can see what's going on. We have 8 times 2 times 6, and when you do the math, that turns about the 96 cubic yards, and you should have been able to do a problem like that, okay? And now, having to slow up just for a second here, but notice I move things along so you're not stuck watching me do these simple things that have to be done. The board has to be clean, and cleaning it up. And going on to problem number 42, which there seems to have been a comprehension problem with number 42. So I'll read it carefully, and then I'll do it on the board here, but I see it clear. I'm sure I do. So the problem says, and it states here that you have a circular above-ground pool. So I'll make one. And everybody knows like that. In the summertime, you see them in the backyards, people all over the place, right? So there you go. And they're telling you that it's going to have the diameter of 8 feet. And then they're telling you that it stands 5.5 feet off the ground. So, and that sounds about right. 5 feet, 5.5 feet. Your regular they're typically blue color. You see them all the time in suburban yards, okay? So then they say that if a pool company charges an installation fee of $11 per square foot, and I think right here, most of you went off the tracks, $11 per square foot. I mean, you have to be able to read the English. Square refers to what? Surface area. Is there any surface area on the top of the pool? Of course not. It's a pool. On the bottom, is there anything to construct? I don't think so. I gave credit for anybody who answered that on, but that didn't seem to be the problem. So if the diameter is 8, then the radius is 4. No need to go on about that. And so the cost would be 2 pi r, which is the circumference of the pool, doing lateral time after all, times the height, which we've done so many times, right? Times 11. So I'll put this in parentheses because this is the lateral area that they're looking for. And of course, we're going to multiply it times $11 per yard because that's the price. So the company's going to figure out how much they have to lay around here, and there might be other little charges, but this is clearly the intent of the problem. And then when we put the math together, as I did over here, I come up with 8 pi times 5.5. And when we multiply that all by 11, we come out with 15. 20 plus 5.3. And I got $3,000, $10,000. I got these. It's a good thing you guys don't do any business because you'd be in big trouble with the things that I saw. Now, I did give credit on the test if you included the bottom. And if you included the bottom, according to my calculations, you'd come out with this number. But it doesn't seem that that was the problem on the test. It seems like the problem on the test was you guys calculated the volume and multiplied it by 11. Boy, oh boy, that's sad, right? Thinking about that. Okay, so now we're good on that one. I'll quickly erase it, and we'll go on to number 43 now. Okay, and when I finish this video, I'll just put all the answers up. And you're welcome to contact me if there's any problems there. And we go on to number 43 where you have the can of soup. Here we go again in the shape of a right cylinder, and it has a radius. So here we go again so many times. And here the radius is what? 2.75. And here the height is 4, and we're talking inches. Okay, and now we have to be careful. We're wary now, reading the English the wrong way. What is the area of the label that covers the entire lateral space? So that should be clear to you. So that's 2 pi r h. It's been made for you so many times. And so I just plug in 2 times pi times 2.75. Since I have a calculator available, 4, and then I just put that number in, and you should either have 22 pi, which of course was accepted, or what the real answer they wanted was 69.1 square inches. And I think a lot of people got that particular one. It was so obvious, and we've done it so many times. So there it is, 40 to 43. I mentioned I'll put out the answers that we were talking about. And you do have a calculator. We'll move it a little bit over here because I got lots of space. So 40 on my key was 280 pi. And when you multiplied that, you came out with something like this. 280 pi feet squared. 41 and my key, hold it, let me get this down, came out to 96 yards cubed, and that was explained to you. Disappointing how many people couldn't do that. Goes to show you where the work really needs to be done at this age level. And we calculated the price, showed you how we came up with that, and there might have been a little bit of ambiguity in number 42, but they asked you, if they're charging $11 per square foot. Obviously, they're looking for the lateral area. And I told you the kid who figured out the bottom, I gave you another number that I gave credit for. But if you charge for the top, you're a dummy because there's nothing there. It's a swimming pool. And finally, we go to number 43. and that was 22 pi, but they didn't really want that, although if you answered that, of course you got it. But most kids were pretty good on this one, inches squared. Okay, so there we go. I'm glad I did that. Now I'm up to getting close to finishing up the whole thing, as promised, and there is the key for that, at least my key. Please contact me if you disagree.